Well, hello, this is Jimmy the Hammer. What follows is a meeting I had with Dr. Rob Cywes. He's the Carb Addiction Doc on YouTube and Instagram. He's a cardiologist, and no, I don't have anything wrong with my heart, but I did want to work with Dr. Cywes, and because he works with the carnivore diet, we wanted to check my labs to make sure that everything was going really well or not really well, things I might need to work on, things and how the diet is affecting my health. So I really enjoyed working with Dr. Cywes. I'm sure you'll find him interesting. Sounded like he had a bit of a cold and probably talking to a lot of clients, and his voice, he was losing his voice, but I really appreciate him letting me record the Zoom meeting. The audio will be better than the meeting that I had with Dr. Chaffee. So going forward, at least in this case with Zoom meetings, my audio will be better. So on with the video.
But I'm very direct.
Yep.
So the first thing
I appreciate that.
So and that's what we talked about, some of the other things that we were eating a few minutes ago. And I just want you to, I'm not going to tell you do or don't, but I'm going to raise a red flag and say, at least discuss this with yourself and in an objective way. Don't defend it, because we are so good at handling mistakes. We'll massage them to the point they didn't even happen, and then we're going to repeat them. If you say, look, that was a mistake, and you objectify it, and you can say, okay, I own the mistake, I can't undo it. What were the circumstances? And the next time I'm in the same situation, how can I handle it differently?
Yeah.
So, Thanksgiving's coming up. A while ago, we go to friends of ours for a buffet every Thanksgiving. It's a routine. But a while ago, I did well on the first part and crashed and burned on the second part where all the crap is, in the line of. So I couldn't fix that. But the following year, I said to my wife, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago, I said to her, you get my food, I get your food. And that's the way we've solved that crossover. Solved. So again, it's about problem solving, and you own it, you analyze it, and you create a corrective action plan. Yep. So let's have a look at your blood work, and I'm just going to read it as I go. It's a story. We're going to look at inflammation. We're going to look at a variety of metabolic markers. And the first thing I'm looking at is your iron numbers.
Yes.
Do you have a problem with hemosiderosis?
What?
You never heard of. So do you have an iron storage problem?
I haven't had it. I have not had that diagnosed. Now, okay. I have had a history of my iron being high.
Okay, because the second thing I want you to do is, I know you consume Fortigen. Please look at that and make sure there's no iron in it.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, because your iron is very high, and I'm worried about it.
Okay.
It's my normal range for total iron is 60 to 100. You're at 205. Oh,
yeah.
And your ferritin, which is an intracellular inflammatory marker, I normally want under 150. You're at 346. Okay. But your iron binding capacity, your saturation, everything is affected by that high iron. And that can be harmful. There's a disease called hemosiderosis that even falls under. So the next question is get on one of your fellow people's trains and don't pay for the ticket, and have them beat you up so that you bleed a little bit.
Well, either that or what is there's a sign at work, guys posted up as a bumper sticker, and it says donate blood, play hockey.
Well, play rugby. Okay, I played rugby. Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. So don't wear any protective gear. And so, but the point is, the bloodletting is going to reduce this, and I would urge you.
About how much?
Find something. If you're going to donate blood, 1 pint.
1 pint. Okay.
Yeah, and if religiously you can't do it, the way to do it is to say, look, would you guys mind taking off a unit blood and discarding it, because you got to lose it anyway.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So,
all right.
Again, reconcile that with your religious beliefs, but
that makes sense.
The health benefit here is to get rid of that.
Okay. All right.
Your testosterone levels are good. They're excellent. I like them. Okay. And you're not supplementing testosterone, so those are good. Now we come up to the most mismanaged aspect, which is your lipid panel. And we've got 4 numbers. There are 2 numbers that I'm going to get out of the way immediately. And this is where the greatest conflict comes in: your total cholesterol and your LDL. Total cholesterol is produced by your body and absorbed from the gut, and is necessary in particular for your brain. So I like total cholesterol to be above 200. You're at 263, 100% fine with that. Your LDL cholesterol, which they call your bad cholesterol, it's just a transport molecule, okay? Its job is to take fat from the fat cells and transport to other cells. I want that to be high. I want that to be between 120 and 300. You're at 175. In my opinion, those two numbers are perfect.
Okay.
In the lipid, the lipid heart people's minds, they're going to tell you, oh my God, you're going to die of a heart attack. You must be on a statin. Absolute garbage. There's no evidence for that. And I'm categorically saying that. So I like where your numbers are. However, your HDL and your triglycerides are direct markers of cardiovascular risk. HDL gets produced by the liver between meals when you are burning fat. And ideally, I'd like your HDL, it's so-called good cholesterol. I don't like that terminology, but I'd like that to be above 75. You're at 69, which is a really good number. I like that a lot. Over time, by going longer periods of time without eating, you'll get that number up.
Okay.
The triglyceride number, triglycerides are made by the liver when it converts excess sugar to fat. And the ideal healthy place to be in when you're fat adapted is for your fat cells to send fat to the liver in LDL to make ketones and to release as fat. The opposite direction is where the liver makes fat and then ships it out to the fat cells. And you want to reverse that traffic. And I think you have. I think your traffic is fat cells back to liver, but the triglycerides tell me that. And ideally, I want the triglycerides below 75. You're at 82, which is really good. I think your protein fat ratio might be a little bit of an issue there. We'll see in a second if that's true. But your liver is still taking excess protein and converting that to sugar and storing it as fat. I want to see that slightly reversed, but those two numbers are good.
They're actually the best they've ever been.
Right, exactly. And here's the thing. It's a continuum. So over the 6 to 8 months, they'll get even better. So this is not a criticism at all. I love where you are. I have no concerns. We're not done yet. We're still moving in that direction. And it's just a question of time and consistency. The next thing is your blood sugar. I don't look at ratios. Your blood sugar is good at 90. This blood work was done in the afternoon, so a little bit later than I would have expected. I like early morning fasting. We've discussed that. Not an issue for me. Not an issue. Okay.
I was fasted for 12 hours. So
yeah, and that's all that matters. So the 90 is good. That's a great number. I'm fine with that. And we'll correlate that with the A1C. Your BUN is at 19. BUN represents the breakdown of protein to sugar. It's the nitrogen waste product. When you break, there's 3 numbers I look at for protein. So nobody should ever tell you how much protein you need to eat. Your blood work tells you if you're eating too much or too little and whether it's protected adequately by fat. A BUN of 19 tells me you're eating adequate protein. Not a concern. The range is 18 to 22. You're good there. I would just tell you that don't be afraid of fat.
Right.
So fat protects protein. I think your ratio is good. Your creatinine is slightly elevated. You're not taking creatine as a supplement. Normally I want to see that around.
I'm sorry, I do.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because you see, the first thing I see when I see a creatinine that's elevated, I say, why is it? That's not right. I say, are you taking creatine?
I don't know I don't remember you asking me that. And if you did, I apologize.
I asked you what supplements you were taking.
And I think I forgot.
That's okay. It's fine.
It's so normal for me to take it that it's like, and that's something that I take it when I remember to take it. It's not necessarily something I take.
I would encourage you to take it. The reason I say that is because when your creatinine is elevated, why is it elevated? It's not horrible, but it's higher than I would have expected. Now we have an answer, and that answer is not a concern. See, if your creatinine was up and you weren't taking creatine, I'd say, man, we've got a protein issue here, we've got a kidney issue. Yeah. No issues with your kidneys. We have an explanation. That's all. Okay. Right. Your electrolytes are fine. I assume you're comfortable eating salt, but no issues with them. Calcium level is perfect, 9.5 to 9.8. You're at 9.7. And that also speaks to vitamin D levels, which is good. A little sunshine, even though it's getting to winter, never hurts. So stick your head out the window.
I kind of sort of work outside.
Good.
Of course, I work outside when it's dark.
The next set of numbers are your liver numbers. And from protein, albumin, globulin, they're all liver function tests. And the 3 I look at the most is ALK phos, AST, and ALT. And your ALK phos is good. I normally want that in the 50s. You're at 61. I'm fine with that. You do not have a fatty liver. But your AST and ALT are significantly elevated. And I know that that's not carbohydrate, because that would be a fatty liver would be the obvious answer. But you don't have a fatty liver. Nothing speaks to that. Triglycerides would not be that low. I think this is a protein turnover issue, and it may be a creatine issue, okay? So it's not an issue. It's not a concern, but your AST and ALT, which are enzymes that break down amino acids to energy are a little high at 36. They're 36 and 36. My normal range ideally is 10 to 15. I'll take up to 20. You're a little higher than that. And I'm not certain why. So I don't think it's carbohydrates. I don't think it's a fatty liver, because none of the other numbers tell me it is, but I'd like to see those numbers come down.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? That may also be related to that high iron.
Okay.
That may be related to the high iron as well. And the reason I say that it's not carbohydrates is your A1C is perfect. You have an A1C, my target is 5.2 or lower, but your hemoglobin A1C is 5.0. That is a beautiful number.
I saw that.
No risk of diabetes. And also, even though you may have a history of cardiovascular disease, you are not currently contributing to cardiovascular disease, at least metabolically. So that's a beautiful number. Magnesium is 4.8, which is perfect. Uric acid, which is the third protein number, I want that below 5.5, ideally below 5. You're at 4.5. So no protein issue here. Again, those liver numbers are not metabolic. Something else has caused those, and I suspect it's the iron. And gamma-glutamyl transferase, which is a marker of liver inflammation, ideally that number should be around 10. You're at 12, which is fine. It tells me that we don't have an inflamed fatty liver. So all of these numbers are corroborating my suspicion. Your thyroid numbers are absolutely fine. No issues with your thyroid. No Hashimoto's disease. Absolutely wonderful, no concern. Your glucagon number is good. Normally, I want that around 15 to 20. You're at 27, a little high, but it just means that you're making ketones. You're turning a bit of that protein into sugar. And we know that that's happening, but not in a dangerous way. When I see ketones up in the 50, 80, when I see glucagon in the 50 to 80 range, then I know people are overdoing the protein, underdoing the fat. That's fine. And again, the only little call to action is maybe at times when you're eating lean food, add a little bit of fat. So for example, when I'm eating sashimi tomorrow night, we talked about this, some of that fish is not very fatty. So I'll always add a source of fat to that. So what do I add to that? I also have a salmon skin hand roll without rice. And I usually have 2 of those, and I have some unagi, which are very fat fish, which I eat together with my sashimi to increase the fat in the food I'm going to eat tomorrow night. That's how my brain works. Does it make sense? Yeah. So I'm going to be eating tuna. I'm going to be eating some of the white fish. They're lower in fat. So I fatten it up with salmon skin.
I just had a couple of ribeyes. So I just had a couple of grass-fed ribeyes. And
within that meal, always look for the fat. So that's just the call to action there. Next set of numbers are your CBC, which measures the cells inside your blood vessel. And ideally, as a marker of vascular inflammation, is your white cell count. Ideally, I want that at 5 or lower. You're at 4.3, which is beautiful, consistent with that low A1C. Hemoglobin is actually good at 14. I would have expected your hemoglobin to be a lot higher. And I do think that this is an iron storage disease, but still letting that blood is a good thing, because when your bone marrow makes new red cells, when you deplete it, when your bone marrow makes more, it'll use the iron that's in there. It decreases that iron load. Does that make sense? Hematocrits are okay. Platelet count is good. All the other numbers are perfect. We're great with your intravascular immune system. No concern. Your urine is nice and clean. No issues there. So that's beautiful. The next thing is you're a little overdosed on vitamin B12. Now look at your supplements. Make sure there's no B12 in it. If it isn't, and it's coming from your red meat, I have no problem with it. But I just want to make sure you're not in addition supplementing to it.
I'm not aware that I am, but I will look.
Just look, that's all. If not, that's fine. My normal range is 6 to 800. You're at 1319, a little high, but if it's all coming from your meat, no concern. Your folate is good. Your H. pylori is negative, and that's a big deal, and that's wonderful. So that's good. That's a bacteria that lives in your stomach that can cause ulcers, can affect metabolism. It's one of the biomarkers, and it's often positive, and a lot of doctors don't test for it, but you're negative, so we're good to go. Now, these are the holy grail numbers. We know your A1C is good. We know your blood sugar is good. The question is, are you insulin sensitive? That your C-peptide is 0.93, your insulin is 3.4. You are perfectly insulin sensitive. So that's a beautiful thing. You're not insulin suppressed yet. You're not insulin resistant. You are ideal. So I love where that is. And that doesn't come naturally. That's earned. Your PSA is 0.9, so we don't have any prostate inflammation, cancer risk. We watch that. And if that suddenly goes up, then that's a call to action to get that looked at. But 0.9, beautiful, no prostate issues. You're a little overdosed on vitamin D3.
So I can cut that out.
Here's what I would do. I wouldn't cut it out, but my normal range is 40 to 80. You're at 103. Your calcium level is okay, so we don't have hypercalcemia. However, you live in Massachusetts in the winter. I would probably stop taking it for the rest of November, and then starting December, take it Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
I think I've got 4 of them left. Just finish the bottle. Don't buy another one.
I would hold off for the month of November.
Oh, okay.
And then take them in December.
Okay, all right.
I just want to see that number come down a little bit. And the reason for that is if your vitamin D levels are too low, and you can Google hypervitaminosis D, you actually start to steal calcium from your bones, and you don't want that. So you want your bones to be happy and healthy. You don't want them to be giving up calcium. And especially if you're female, that adds excess vitamin D3 can add to bone demineralization, osteoporosis, osteopenia. So again, that's not your problem, but I just put that out there. And you don't have any antibodies to insulin. So you don't have any autoimmune disease. Your blood work is magnificent. It really, really is good. And while the iron number is not a metabolic number, that's just something I saw. And I said, look, we got to go and bring that down a little bit. But other than that, this blood work is excellent. So
this is for the people that are listening, because there are people listening to this. So I've been carnivore since July. So it's about the beginning of July. And the problem with my iron is an ongoing thing. I've had it for years. So that's not like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's not because of your carnivore diet.
Right,
Absolutely. Right. I see carnivore blood work all the time, but I do look at the blood work because every now and then, and it's not related to your diet. Right. Okay. However, there are two aspects to a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet. The first part is therapeutic, where you are correcting problems caused by the standard American diet, whether it's diabetes, whether it's obesity, whether it's all these numbers we looked at. But then you reach an inflection point where you've corrected all of the insulin resistance issues. But all because you've corrected them, you don't stop. Now we're in the prevention mode. And that lasts until about 10 minutes after you're dead as an old man. So you want to continue eating the way you're eating. And you can broaden the range slightly, but you want to monitor this blood work and keep it in this range. And the one way to broaden it slightly, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this, but is to incorporate a tiny fraction of sugar in your diet. And the reason for that is not because you want carbohydrates. You want to stay fat adapted, but it's to trigger insulin. And we see people over time, you're not there, but over time, they slide into insulin suppression. And insulin has a lot of other jobs that don't involve sugar. They involve protein synthesis, cholesterol synthesis, cancer surveillance. All of those things are insulin's job. And the best way to increase, if you're comfortable doing this, to have a little bit of sugar to trigger insulin is with dairy product. Dairy is the only carnivore product that contains sugar. And if you're eating a bit of cheese, even if you want to put a little bit of heavy milk in coffee that you drink if you drink coffee, I have no problem with that. And that can be a benefit.
I am doing that.
Perfect. Right. And I just want to reinforce that. So if you're already doing that, then clearly there is no harm to that, because if it was a problem, you wouldn't have blood work this good. So if you keep doing that, it's keeping you in that range, not flipping you over, not flipping you back. This blood work is ridiculously good.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Therefore, you need to take pride in that. If you don't tap yourself on the chest and say, hey, Jim, good work, it doesn't have any benefit for you psychologically. No, and then you become complacent.
I will say this. I was able to look at a lot of this and I was like, okay, the vitamin D is high, but that's, if that's high, whatever. When I got to the hemoglobin A1C, after watching your videos and everything, and I saw that it was 5, I was like, woo!
You want to celebrate that. That's crazy good, because there are very, very few people in this country of our age, and I'm a little older than you, that have numbers that good. And also the other important thing, when I talk to people, I don't ask them, are you on any medication? I ask them, what medications are you on? Because almost nobody our age is not on medication, but you're not.
Yeah.
And you take some supplements, but they are more itinerant than they are necessary. And that is incredibly good. And you don't need any medications based on where you currently are, at least metabolic medication.
Oh, yes.
So I'm thrilled with where you are.
But obviously I need a statin.
Yes, no, definitely a statin. But you know what? You're going to die of a heart attack or stroke in about 10 minutes. No, but you're absolutely right. That is what they'll tell you.
I was going to say 13 minutes, but who's counting?
Right, 13, exactly.
Now, I was going to send this to you and I didn't know whether you cared. I also got a DEXA scan.
Yes.
And you may be interested in is that in a year, my visceral fat is down to 0.11 pounds.
Good.
And my T-score, which is you probably know what that is 3.1.
Fantastic. That visceral fat, and I've just taped a video on the whole misnomer of visceral fat. Visceral fat is not a problem. The problem is the hormonal disruption that causes you to deposit fat around your viscera. And that's a testosterone-driven visceral fat production. So when your testosterone's high and you're eating this way and you're not hyperinsulinemic, the visceral fat doesn't get deposited and you're actually using it up. So that is a misnomer. I've got a video on that coming out. One last comment for you, Jim, is I've got a study here that was published last month. And where is it? It's not this one. It's called the 100-year study. It's out of Sweden. It was published last month. And they looked at people in Sweden, a large cohort of people who lived beyond 100. And then they looked at people who didn't live to 100 and they compared their blood work. They didn't, no intervention, just live your life. And what they found is the people that lived over 100 or to 100, number one, they had statistically a higher level of cholesterol, total cholesterol, and LDL and HDL, and a lower level of triglycerides as those that died early. Their A1C was low, their blood sugar was low, their ferritin was low, which yours isn't, but we know why, and their iron stays were low. So that's one thing that we will work on. That's why I pushed that. But all of the numbers that you have meet longevity criteria. So this is excellent. Very, very good. So let's see how this goes.
Okay, so the recommendation is to go get rid of some blood to hopefully get the iron levels down.
And then the only other thing is making sure that every meal that you eat has visible fat in it.
Okay. You know what? I do like just eat butter.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But if I'm going to wrap something in bacon, add a piece of cheese to it, add something fatty with it. The other night we were eating lamb chops, and the place we got them from had cut the fat off. So I added sardines to it. We opened a can of sardines, and I just had those are condiments to enrich the fat content. As I said, if I'm eating sashimi, I'm adding some salmon skin hand roll to it on purpose to enrich the fat. So as long as you're aware that fat is your friend, you're going to be just fine. Yep. I love it.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm
no need to do anything again for at least a year.
Oh, okay. Okay. So no more blood tests for a year. No. Okay.
Just tracking, no fixing.
The one thing that I had not really an issue, but when I went to go find a place that does a CAC score.
Yes.
When you just type in the Google in the internet machine, it's like CAC score in Boston. I got a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't, it's like not specifically saying, just come here and do it. That's why it hasn't gotten done yet.
That's fine. That's okay. With these numbers, it's not an issue. It'll be nice to know for the knowledge.
Yeah.
But the way to look at it is Google freestanding radiology centers.
Okay.
And they will usually offer that. And then just ask them what their price point is. Or, you know what, in Massachusetts, it's a communist country. So you guys they'll probably pay. No, I'm being silly. I live in Florida, which is a wonderful egalitarian state. I don't want to get political there, but I'm being silly. The point is your insurance should cover it. But if they don't, you should try to get it for under $150.
Okay.
Okay. That's basically what our places charge here in Florida.
So would a place that does MRIs do it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I know the place. The place where I got the MRI on my shoulder, they can do it.
I just call them and say, do you guys have a CT scanner? They'll do it. That's easy. It's a worthwhile number to have. But I love where you are. Let's see how this goes, and we'll talk again the next time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye. Night.